I would like to thank Nicole and Costa, two Ukrainian children who carried the flags for us today. And I'd like to thank all of you who have taken seats in our little concert hall here in Lacombe. Thank you for being here, and thank you for placing bids in the auction. That's very important tonight. I just said the word concert hall. We like to think of St. Andrew's United Church as our little concert hall in Lacombe because it's our personal favorite place to play for this orchestra. And what that makes me think of is that in Ukraine, they have lost many of their concert halls. The musicians there, professional musicians, amateur musicians, students, they no longer have anywhere to perform. They're running for their lives. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not fair. What has happened is absolutely despicable and inexcusable and should never have happened. So I want to thank you for coming and helping us make a difference for 3 families that will be here soon in Lacombe. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ron Orr, our current Minister for Arts and Culture, a personal friend and close neighbor. Thank you for being here, and he's going to welcome somebody else.
Wow, this is a great crowd to be here tonight, and thank you all for coming. This is really about Ukraine, and I'm just very pleased tonight to be able to share with us a little bit, a friend that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. He's been very involved, actually in I think it's the very first plane load of goods that went out from the warehouse in Edmonton. Some of you contributed to that, I know. He was helping to organize that, receive some of that stuff, and worked with Firefighter Aid Ukraine and also the Canadian Ukrainian Congress Alberta chapter on that piece. He also currently sits on, as a co-chair actually, of the Alberta Ukraine Advisory Council in working with ongoing efforts, and very involved, and he's going to just come and share some greetings with us. I understand he also has been in recent contact with the Ukraine Consul General in Edmonton. We both know him, we've talked, and a bit of an update comes from there. So this is about as close as we can get to official greetings for you here in Lacombe. So Andriy Borichenko, please come and share with us. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Ron for inviting us here. It is my pleasure to come and see people getting together to support people in Ukraine. And when I came here, I heard that your motto here is one note at a time. And that strike that even young people, musicians, future celebrities probably around the world, whoever is getting really good here and listening to teachers, is coming and supporting Ukraine, and it really hits my heart and comes close to my heart because I grew up in Ukraine. I was born in Odessa, a beautiful city of Ukraine, right on the Black Sea, south portion of Ukraine. And when I was 15, my family immigrated to Canada here, and I always had this love for my home country, and I was blessed to be in the province where we have a lot of Ukrainian people that came from Ukraine, Ukrainian descent people here. And later in life, I got involved a little bit in politics and was appointed to be a co-chair at Alberta Ukraine Advisory Committee. And I was blessed enough to go travel even pre-war to Ukraine. And people around asked me, why do I travel so much? I said, well, because we do quite a bit of business. We have Canadian companies here or groups that were helping donating with Firefighter Aid to Ukraine, with Medical Mercy was helping Ukraine, and I was blessed enough to go there. But I always answer because the country is so beautiful, people are nice there, and it's just my pleasure to visit back every year to see the country growing and separated from Russia almost 20 years ago, 30 years now. And then just doing so well. And on April February 24, when I heard that the war had erupted. My wife can witness that. For 3 days, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was on the phone with my relatives, and just a pain that, the beautiful country, free, loving country and friendly country is getting attacked. And it was very hard. But what changed my tone was to see how much around the world, especially in Canada here, people are getting together to help Ukraine. We had our family helping us, even from your orchestra, we had donations coming to Edmonton that already on the airplane flew to Ukraine, and people get this help already in Ukraine. We have local committees, churches, we have people all around Canada, Alberta here, helping Ukraine, and it showed me how much people around the world knew about Ukraine, because Ukraine is a new, fairly new 30-year-old country that's separated from Russia, Russia's ruling, and we have all these people getting together to help Ukraine. And I'm admiring, and I want to thank everybody here for coming today and helping, taking time of your day just to help people who's actually being affected by war. We have friends and families who are losing their lives, who's getting bombed and shelled every day. Russia had fired 2,000 missiles over Ukraine in the last 66 days today. So there's no safe place in Ukraine. Every town, every city is getting shelled and bombed. There is a front line where there's active war going, but all over Ukraine, their bombs are falling. Ukraine does not have control of skies. Rockets are coming and going at any given time, at the middle of night, during the day. Kids, families, women, children are getting killed and bombed. So thank you very much for getting together today. Thank you very much, guys, for organizing this and helping Ukraine. Right now, there is a two-stage of donations and help that we're accepting. Some of it goes to Ukraine, but some of it actually helps people that are already here in Alberta. There's family that are here, and we had accepted a family that we never met before. We never knew of them. We just got a phone call and said that people are trying to come to Canada. They applied for a visa, and we just met them at the airport. They came here, and we realized how much they need of just a simple stuff. It's not necessarily a clothing, but we got them apartment. We helped them to find a job here. Basically, on the 4th, 5th day in Canada, they're already going to work, and they need like everyday items. Your coffee makers, your toasters, bathroom mats, and just everyday items that we take for granted. People coming here, they don't have that. So thank you very much for donations. Thank you very much for fundraising. Thank you very much for the full minivan that you guys brought into Edmonton that was sent to Ukraine. So I want to thank you, everybody. And Ukraine appreciates that. People who are here appreciate that. I was talking to people behind me here, and they were tearing up, thanking that people are getting together to help us. So thank you very much. God bless you, and success in your musical career. We want to see you and hear you around the world. There's no limits. Thank you. God bless.
I have the privilege now of introducing Heidi. Well, now, what should I say? I have known Heidi since she was 9 years old. Heidi grew up in the orchestra, and now she's my assistant director. The best thing I can say about Heidi is she's full of surprises. So it was no surprise, really, when a few days after they started dropping bombs on Ukraine, I woke up to an email from Heidi to say that she was in Poland. And I will let Heidi tell the rest of her story.
Thank you for that, Naomi. Yes, I'm sure I'm responsible for a gray hair or two that hasn't appeared yet, but we'll give it time. Well, Orchestra, you have completely changed Hall of the Mountain King for me. I can't tell you guys how many times I've played that in various groups. See, as students, we're always taught that this is a piece about trolls and elves and mystical kingdoms. And during the opening, the Morning Mood, I just was transported back to eastern Poland. I was about half an hour away from the border and admiring the sunset glinting off of the winter wheat crop poking up. I'm a farmer, I noticed these things. I actually went to Poland on recon to check out how their crops were coming compared to ours. Their winter wheat is much further along than our couple fields are. And so I've transported back to this beauty of getting closer and closer to the border. Is the border going to look different? You know, who knows how far away the bombs are falling? And then they started playing the last movement. And it wasn't an innocent little adventure about trolls and boulders running down the mountain. It's very real what's going on over there. So thank you for being here tonight and for coming together in support. I have a magic wand. It is turned off. Turning it on probably helps. I can talk without it. On. Hey, it's vibrating. That's a good sign. Hey, here we go. I want you guys to meet some new friends and neighbors to those of us who are living in Lacombe. It has been 61 days since I had the pleasure of first meeting the Borichenko family. Of course, when I met them, they didn't exactly look like this. This wasn't the greeting I got. None of us really look our best when we've been sitting in a car for days on end. Make that 2 days. 3 days, probably near 4 or 5. They were coming from the very furthest region of the Ukraine. Bombs had been falling since the very beginning. One of the women showed me a video of her mother and her sister's mother in a basement, in a little semicircle like our moms would hang out in a backyard barbecue. But it was a concrete structure, and you could hear bombs falling in the background. I had received word from a refugee camp that there was a carload of orphans on the way from an orphanage. You see, with a 5-day queue, you want to move as many people as possible, but when you're sitting in line, it's absolutely imperative that you're able to get back and bring more people over. So I was meeting these guys at the border in order to expedite a return trip so that they could go and bring more people to safety. On the way, I began to get photos. Young kids in a car. Anyone here with anyone younger than age 5 knows that that's not a fun place to be for days on end. And at that point, word hadn't traveled. These people were leaving their homes not knowing they were going to be sitting in line to cross the border for days. Situations were unfolding rapidly. That evening, we were safe in our apartment in the nearby city of Rzeszów, and I fell asleep on the floor with it's hard to make out when I finally got into my little room, but there were 5 little humans on a pull-out couch in an apartment that we didn't even know we would be in that night, sleeping peacefully, stretched out. In the early days that the Medica border crossing, chaos was indescribable. So was goodness, so was kindness. I reserved a farmhouse on Airbnb, and of course, by the time we got there, the farmhouse owner had rented it out to someone else, but said, here's an apartment, you guys stay there. But we got to the apartment and his laundry was hanging in the bathroom. See, he gave us his own apartment and went to sleep somewhere else so that these people would have a place to stay while they contemplated their next move. So we ended up with little people, big people, crammed in an apartment. They were not orphans. They were coming from families that worked in affiliation with the orphanage, mothers and sisters who had had to hug their husbands goodbye for the last time that day, husbands who were not allowed to leave the country, husbands who had braver things that they needed to attend to, husbands that since that day have been every single day running people to and from safety. First in a teeny tiny little car, after that, one van, then two vans, risking their lives every single day. These women didn't know what the future would bring. They just knew that they'd said goodbye to the loves of their lives in order to protect their children and get them to safety. We had a little 3 a.m. Google Translate girls' night that is absolutely indescribable. One of the women confessed to me, if it wouldn't have been for the kids, I would stay with my husband. I told her, you shouldn't have to choose between your children being safe and being with the person you covenanted to spend the rest of your life with. So together we forged ahead. The children were no longer sleeping on the floor of nearby churches that had taken them in on the way to Poland. They were happy. We had kitchen. We had all sorts of things that will show you if room to run around and play. Anyone who knows, we had 2 5-year-olds, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So stretching legs was absolutely the top priority. Kids had had a rough day. One day, while the reporters showed up, it was a very interesting time on the border. At that point, Western insurance was not allowing reporters into the Ukraine because of loopholes. They didn't want their reporters getting bad things happen to them. So we ended up being I don't want to say targets, but we ended up being the first in-depth interview that Global News was able to sit down with, actually getting a heart-to-heart conversation with some of these families. And so from that, the huge outpouring of all of Canada poured in. This made national news, the little interviews with this family. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend watching. In the background, while the reporters are conducting their interviews, I hear little giggles from 5-year-olds and 3-year-olds. They'd found a little window ledge, and they're jumping down onto the bed. And they're yelling something, but I wasn't really paying attention, because, English, right? And they're jumping gleefully off of this ledge onto the bed. Bambuchka, bambuchka. The children were playing war. The children were playing bomb. This was their world, and they didn't quite realize at that time that things had changed. At this time, we decided it was time to hit the shopping mall, grab a couple supplies. They didn't know they were leaving for quite that quickly. There had only been a few days. There'd been no time to pack. We go to the grocery store, we go to the shopping mall, and the Polish money changer looks at their Ukrainian currency, and he says, "Today, I cannot exchange for you. You hold on to this, because someday it will be worth something. But today I cannot in good conscience take this from you. Your money is close to worthless." And I didn't want to have to open up my wallet, because none of us would feel fantastic being in that situation. But by that point already, I had received an immeasurable amount of donations that had been transferred to me from people here in Canada who just wanted to help, and they knew that someone was there, and maybe it was a long shot, but maybe these donations could be used for something. And in the weeks to come, I saw Albertan farmers, Albertan entrepreneurs. I saw donations from all of Canada come in. I was able to purchase wheelchairs. We were able to buy food. We were able to buy train tickets. And we were able to help bridge the gap between so many families that were coming to a better life and also leaving behind a nightmare. And so the days ahead that followed brought lots of chaos, but also hope. and lots of running around and playground trips. The clicker seems to like this unfold at a slightly different pace. This was the last photo of 4 of our family members. Natasha and Alexei, he has been driving women and children to safety since the outbreak of the war. Natasha came across with her son Platon, their daughter. Apparently, young children around the world love strawberry yogurt. I learned this quickly. Grocery store runs, and was quickly a nap time in the back of the car. And we made a friend, 9-year-old Platon. And those of you here, if there's any holdouts that think kids can't accomplish big things, I am here to tell you about the impact of one very special 9-year-old. Here he is sharing his ice cream with one of the littlest there. We'll come back to him. He wrote a very special letter, and he's decided to share it with us tonight for you, Lacombe, since you're going to be his new friends, family, and neighbors. One night after the cameras started, after the article, after the news began circulating, I told these guys, you know what, so many Canadians are donating money, they might like to see what you look like. Do you have any pictures? And so the women started sending me pictures from their Instagram feeds. Happier times. I don't know what picture comes to your mind when you imagine someone fleeing war. This wasn't what I had in mind. These could be my best friends, my nieces, happy families, with no way of knowing what was to come. Something magical started to happen. We founded a Give, Send, Go page. People from across Canada started donating. They wanted to help. And it wasn't just monetary donations. That is the staggering part. A orchestra back home said, hey, we want to help. Naomi was frantically organizing, while I was still in Rzeszów, this concert for everyone. In Bentley, a young schoolgirl said, I want to make a difference. So she got her entire 6th grade class together, organized a school-wide bake sale. They raised just under $1,000. My little boys that live upstairs, there's a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, they looked at their little playground set in the backyard and said, do you think the Ukrainian boys, that they would like these, the Ukrainian children? They can have. Food came next. My project for 1 week was, how are we going to feed these guys? Let's fill a deep freeze. We're in cattle country. It shouldn't be that hard to get meat donations. Within 3 hours, I had enough meat to fill a massive deep freeze, and the freezer itself had been donated. A local church heard of the cause. They committed to grocery cards for the first 6 months. Little by little, things were happening. We had no idea at the time what would be covered by the government, but we knew that we were committing to support these guys, whatever their needs would be. The ripples kept coming. My mom called me the other day, a lady that had donated her home as a quarantine house, wanted to know how to write the children's names. She was making them blankets. David came up to me earlier tonight and said he's got contacts coming together to get bicycles for the kids. My good friend Kaz, our Airbnb contact, I received a message a couple weeks ago from a woman in the Ukraine. You know, you get these messages, and this was a Friday night, late at night, and I got this message saying, I'm so scared, our city is surrounded, the children are scared, I need to leave, where do we go? There are no train tickets, what do we do? And, you know, at this point, I'd learned that there are things you can help with, and there's things that are beyond your control, so I was as comforting as I could. We said a prayer, and I said, look, if you can get yourself to the border, call this number. He will take care of you. And we exchanged messages throughout the weekend. And by some miracle, Monday morning, I woke up to a message saying, we are here in Poland. We are safe. Your friend Cass, he come to the train station in the middle of the night. He put us in an apartment. He find us jobs. People this guy had never met. This guy I had never met until I got to Poland. People coming together because they wanted to help. Tonight is when we restore our faith in humanity a little bit. This should leave you feeling like there are amazing things happening when we choose to work together, when our children choose to work together, and when we unite as a community. Because each and every one of us has something we can leverage, and it doesn't have to be money. I had a little oops before I left and accidentally sold a load of grain that I wasn't planning on selling and not at the price that I was planning on getting. And all of a sudden, when it was time to go to Poland, I had that little amount for a plane ticket. But that was it. Because money poured in, I was able to initially help this family. Because now we've had a generous donor come forward and offer us a house that we will be able to rent for a little bit. And so now these guys have a place to stay. We have children that have had every sort of idea imaginable of what they would want if this was them coming to a new country. There's something magical happening here. And I won't go as far as to say that it balances out all the atrocities that some of us wish we knew a lot less of. But I think it's a powerful reminder after the last however many years that we've lived through together and seen some of the consequences that comes from not choosing unity, not choosing each other. Tonight we have a choice to move forward and to stand together and to support those of us who don't have the same privileges, that don't have the same abilities in this season. When I first saw the picture of all the things, my first thought was, this could be me. My great-grandfather's side came from Odessa. The other grandparents were also from the Ukraine. The only thing different than me and these guys is the fact that my great-grandparents made a different choice than theirs. Because of that, I am here. I have a business. I have an orchestra I get to work with. I have students that I get to see and teach in safety every single week. I have all these things because my great-grandparents made a different decision than these guys did. I have things I can leverage. You have things you can leverage. We all have things we can leverage because we all came from somewhere. That is a gift. The ability to be here and to support is a gift. So circling back to my 9-year-old friend, he hopped in the car with me that first night I picked them up at the refugee camp. Our language skills were not the best, but he understood immediately that he was my 9-year-old co-pilot and he was to make sure I didn't get lost. He was stuck in an apartment full of girls. He was the only boy. And so I tried to take a little special interest in him. The only cool thing I could find to buy him was balloons, which he promptly blew up and handed out to all the reporters because that's just his nature, is to share. And I saw him writing one day. And if you guys know little boys, if they're writing, there has to be a reason. Like, they don't just do that for fun, right? So I just kind of leaned up to him. I was like, what is it that you're working on? And he like kind of trotted over to his mom and motion for her to translate a little bit. He was writing a story, you guys. He had been in Poland maybe 2 days, and he was keeping an ongoing story of the war. And in her loose Ukrainian English mix, I heard, Putin is approaching. I never thought war in Ukraine would ever happen. I am Platon Bichlenko. My parents have never seen war. My sister was born when I was 5. I will soon be 9 years old. We believe in God, and He always helps us. And he goes on to detail the experiences of what had unfolded through his eyes. And as we've kept in contact, I messaged him earlier this week. I said, Platon, would you like to share your letter with your new friends from Canada? Would you like to read them what you have experienced? And the next day I got a video from what is probably very close to my favorite 9-year-old in the world right now. And it gets better, you guys. Because of the news stories, because I now had contacts across Canada I'd never even met before, this story had gotten shared on the news, not just in Canada, but Japanese reporters were there picking it up. And when the Polish-Ukrainian translator translated it for them, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. These big burly men just absolutely reduced at the gravity of this kid's word. And as this story spread, I received a message from a 5th grade teacher in Toronto who had played her class Platon's letter, and all of the little 5th graders had written him a letter back and had it translated to Ukrainian. So within a week of arriving home in Canada, I was able to send him letters from 20 different Canadians his age and encouragement. There is no such thing as one small act of kindness, one small act of stepping forward. The impact and the bravery of sharing our stories, there's no way of knowing how far those ripples reach. So tonight it is our absolute pleasure to introduce Platon to you at a distance and some of the messages written to him by his friends throughout Canada. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Добрий день, моя родина з України. Я зараз вам прочитаю моє оповідання. Путін на підході. Я думав, що в Україну війна ніколи не прийде. Я бідненько Платон. Мої батьки ніколи не бачили війни. А моя сестра народилася, коли мені було 5 років. Зараз мені 9 років. Ми віримо в Бога, і Він нам завжди допомагає. Це було зимового дня 2022 року, 24 лютого. У нас почалась війна. Ми
Thank you for sharing the story with us, Heidi, and for giving us the insight of your adventures. And now I feel like we know this family, and they haven't quite arrived yet. I'm not talking a lot about the music tonight because I want to move through and keep the program flowing, but I will just take a moment to introduce the Bach Brandenburg because I simply want you to know how much the students love playing this piece. The program was a little long and I needed to cut a piece out earlier in the week, and I thought I was going to cut Bach Brandenburg. Well, you should have heard the complaints. There's something about the complexity of Bach that is really attractive to the kids. You would think that they might want to play the easier music that, you know, la, 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 and you're done. No, they want to play the more complicated music, and I think it's because the minds are young and athletic and growing and developing. And there's something about the way the melodies get passed around by Bach, back and forth and around and inverted and turned upside down. It's so attractive to young people, and it's so much fun, and there's so much energy. So I love the fact these kids love to learn hard music. It keeps me busy, and I hope you enjoy Bach's Brandenburg number 3, just the first movement. Thank you. I'd just like to take a quick moment to introduce, we have a guest conductor with us tonight. Lemuel Ligse has been studying music at Burman University for the past 3 years, and he's from the Philippines. His mom is here visiting him right now because this weekend is his graduation. He has finished his music degree in viola, and he has been accepted to go and study conducting in Manitoba. So we get to keep him in Canada for 2 more years at least, and he's just a fabulous young conductor. So I invited him here today to conduct one piece so that I could disappear to the back of the orchestra and help with this piece playing oboe. We're going to play Mozart's 29, and usually we play it with just strings, but actually it's supposed to have 2 French horns and 2 oboes. And for the first time ever in the history of RVSO, we're doing it. We have 2 oboes and 2 horns. I would like to thank my friends up there, Louise and Kristen and Lois. Thank you so much for playing this with us today. And thank you again to Lemuel. Following this piece, you are to go to the auction and bid high.
So I've been given the privilege of asking you for your money. But I'd rather turn around and face these kids behind me, because there are literally thousands of hours of practice. From those horrible squeaky twinkle bells to absolutely masterful playing. There's dedication, there's scholarship, there's excellence. There's plumbers on this stage, and I mean that literally. He also has a degree in music. There are young kids as young as 8. And within the orchestra, we come up to about 18 or 19. We have wonderful alumni who've gone on to do incredible things around the world, winning awards. But it's absolutely impossible for any of them to do what they've done without incredible families and an incredible community that came out to concerts. That's what we're doing. Supported them, encouraged them, pushed them, cajoled them. And that community is here. It built these kids. And this is the community that's going to be welcoming many, many families over the next few months. And that's what we need. Communities that can build these kids, can open their arms and bring more people here. And I thank you for your generosity. Please visit the auction, which is down the hallway to my left, to your right. There are accessible toilet facilities on this level. If you feel like you get some exercise, there are toilets downstairs. Just keep winding down the stairs, turn to the right. Get some fresh air, and come back for the last quarter of the concert after the 25-minute intermission. Have a great one, folks. Thanks for coming and supporting these kids and the future kids of Lacombe.